Hey, everybody, this is Big Red Live. I'm your host, Josh. Join with me again is Ryan. Tonight, we are coming at you with some baseball, softball, and soccer bracketology, talking about some of the biggest storylines, talking about some seeding and some current standings as we wind down the final week of the regular season of baseball, or technically, for most cases, it is postseason baseball as conference tournaments are going on this week. We're wrapping up baseball season this week and heading into the postseason. We're going to take a look at some brackets, talk about storylines, and some other things that come to mind as we go. Ryan, how are you doing? It's been a while since we've done one of these, so
It
we're looking forward
has.
to getting back to doing this.
Yep, it's about that time again.
All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into this. Ryan, obviously, you've had a lot of opportunities to take a look at what's been going on over the past few weeks since you've been the one looking over the brackets and keeping up with things as things have changed. So, let's talk about some of the most notable things that you've noticed as doing these brackets over the past few weeks. What have you seen as been the biggest talking points for the brackets as they've been taking shape over the past couple of weeks?
Mainly just how the 1As, some teams haven't played many games. That's the biggest thing that stands out, and how difficult it makes the brackets, especially if there's less than 16 teams. First, like 16 teams, you end up with everyone getting a first round bye. If there's exactly 16, everyone gets a first round bye, and no one gets a real bye. So there's just a lot of things that are in the lower seeds or the lower classifications that are problematic for the brackets.
I noticed that one thing that me and you talked about, I think it was last week, we talked about the brackets in particular, where there were teams that were seated very low on the brackets that had played only a handful of games. For example, there was a couple teams that were 1-0, a couple teams that were 0-1, and then there were some teams 0-6. And it's been a bit difficult to try to track those because when we have taken a look at the brackets and we tried to confirm this, we look on Max Preps as well, and there's nothing on Max Preps. And we actually were able to get some insight on that from some higher ups, telling us that the reason being is that some schools may not have this stuff entered on Max Preps, but more than likely the case would be that these teams that you see playing a handful of games have either folded or just played a game or so and then haven't continued their season from there. So a lot of different things to look out for, especially with these 1A brackets in particular. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for that part. Anything else you want to add there, Ryan?
Not really. Like I excluded some teams from the last playoff pitcher brackets, and we still don't know yet. But like Millennium Charter Academy was like near top 10 with a 1-0 record, and I think we found out that they're not really a real team in softball. They just somehow have played a game. I'm not real sure how that works. I don't know if they like got a team together for a little bit and scheduled one game. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's a few teams like Millennium Charter, Wilson Prep. They'd only played 4 games. Weldon played 4 games. Rocky Mountain Prep played 5. So and then this is true for softball and baseball.
Yeah. And also another thing talking about this too is one of the big talking points has been talked about over this past couple weeks that we posted brackets is we've noticed that people have been talking about the east-west line in particular, talking about how some teams that have traditionally been in the west are in the east, and now you got teams that have been traditionally in the east and the west. So Ryan, obviously we know that there's a new system in place that determines what the east-west line looks like for these specific brackets. Would you mind taking the time to kind of explain how that works and try to give our viewers a better understanding as to why some teams flip flop between sport to sport now?
Yep. So a few years or last year, they changed it back to a variable east-west line. It's no longer static. It was for, I can't remember how many years, like 6 years. I think from 2015 to 2021, it was a static line that I'm not sure of the counties, but they butted up about 2 counties east of Charlotte and straight up from there. That was about where the line used to be. Now every week the East-West line can shift depending on who falls out. If a team falls out that was really close to the middle line, a team from the East has to shift over and fill in for them. So the line can shift and move from week to week. It's not going to be a huge movement, but from class to class, there's a wide range of where they can end up. So in some sports, teams can be in the East, some they can end up in the West, and it can change from year to year.
Yeah.
In the lower classifications, it doesn't work as well because there's so little teams. Like there's 28 teams right now for 1A softball. I've excluded 4 or 5 here. There could be 33, but I've excluded 4 or 5. If this number ends up odd, Falls Lake Academy could easily end up in the West. And if that was to happen, what if they end up having to play Hiwassee Dam? That's a 6-hour and 14-minute drive right there.
Yeah, and we talked about this East-West line. The biggest impact it had on 1A was particularly known throughout the 1A football bracket when we saw a team like East Columbus having to travel about 7.5 hours up to Robbinsville during football season. And it looks like it could be the same case here. I mean, even the teams that are right there on the line, right there for the western part of the state, still going to have a long drive if they have to go to the mountain to play either of those teams. Yeah,
it's just because there's so few teams. There's going to be a lot more travel and, that make the playoffs. Now, if there was less teams that make the playoffs, that it could help tighten it up a little bit.
All right. Well, now that we've talked about some of these brackets and stuff like that, to show an example of how the East-West line shifts, would you show some visuals with the difference between the sports for 1A, for example, like how it shifts from line to line?
Yeah. Okay. Let's try 1A baseball is going to be very similar. It doesn't move much because it's the same teams basically, and because everyone makes the playoffs, it doesn't move much. But if you go to 3A baseball, you'll see it's more in this area. This is a truer representation, at least in my opinion, about the middle of the state. This is almost where the old static East-West line was. It was this county right here, this county, and straight up these counties right here. So it's almost exactly where it used to be in 3A. It works out really well for 3A.
All right. So
it's true for most other classes. Like the bigger classes, it doesn't shift a ton, but like this one's even probably too far west in 4A. It's Then you're going to have teams. Oh man, that is a big gap. Let's see. Let's see how far this one is. 5 hours and 3 minutes. It's still not as bad as if Falls Lake had to go to Hiwassee Dam, but that's still a pretty long drive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talking about this and kind of getting into some of the brackets, a lot of our area teams range between the 3A and 7A classifications. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at those 3A through 7A classifications for our area teams and try to get a better look as to what these brackets are looking like as we wind down the season. This week will be the final week of the regular season, and then next week playoff brackets will be released and the playoffs will begin. Ryan, what information do you have? When is the brackets going to be released, and what information you have there on that?
I think we'll have one more update before brackets from the official brackets are released. One more playoff picture update. When are they? I think they're releasing those May 4th, unless it's changed. So we got about one more week. So they'll probably be posted this Friday again. Or they'll probably be posted this Friday, an update on the new brackets.
All right. So for our viewers that are watching today, we're going to be going through classifications 3A through 7A. If you have a team that you want us to take a look at, give us the specific sport, what classification they're in, and the team name. So that way we can look for them and show you where they are in the brackets. Now, remember, these are not finalized brackets. We still got one more week of the season to go before the official playoff brackets will be released next week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the 3A classification and just go through. We'll start with baseball, and then we'll slowly work down through softball and then soccer.
Sounds good. Also, at some point, I want to ask the audience if they prefer this this kind of view for the region standings. We can sort it to where none of the logos overlap.
Yeah.
And we have a region ranking view here. You can see where each team is, where they're ranked in each region. So this could take over for the region stand-in brackets.
Yeah.
You know, at some point I would like to hear y'all's feedback on which you would prefer to see, because at least this one shows the east-west line too, so you kind of have a better visual of where that's at and everything.
Yeah, and for the record, everybody, I was not informed on Ryan's just amazing east-west line on map that he made over the past couple of weeks. He's just surprised me out of the blue by texting me a picture of it one day, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen something so magnificent before." Because this gives so much perspective as to how everything's laid out, and kind of giving a better perspective as to how everything is working in this new system.
Yeah. I mean, you lack some details with a map view only. You don't know their exact record or RPI, but at least this does show you, why they are where they're at and everything, and how the line works now.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at the brackets for these for the 3A baseball playoffs.
All right. Yeah. Well, first off, here's the RPI rankings for the entire class. This isn't East or West or anything. This is just where everyone,
just the entire classification
is living right now. Yeah. So East recently they dropped down a rank in 3A. They were two or three. I think North Stanley was 1, and I think East was 2. Aiden Grifton has jumped up there with a big win recently. North Stanley lost and East lost, so they both dropped. So it's going to be a tight race there. There's not much separating these 4 teams at the top.
Yeah, and it looks like conference tournaments are going to be a big deal going down the stretch for those top spots in those respective regions. Only less than 1/100th of an RPI point between most of these teams, and it looks like 2,000ths of an RPI between East Rutherford and North Stanley.
Yep, and North Stanley's done. They're done for the season, the regular season. So, and East still has games left to play. So East will likely, if they win their last 2 games, they should go ahead of North Stanley.
Yeah,
I would think it's going to be close in the West here for the number 1 and number 2 seeds. It's less close in other places. McMichael could catch up with Aiden Grifton. They still have 3 games left, Aiden Grifton. And McMichael, they were in the West in football. Mm-hmm. I think they drew Shelby round 1, if I'm not mistaken, in football in the West. And now they're in the East because there's just the less teams in baseball. So the averages out of longitude ends up putting them back in the East here.
Absolutely. You can see a lot of area teams popping up in this one for the 3A classification. We'll take a look here at the playoff picture and see how things are shaping up, especially in the West. For this live stream, since we want to try to keep everything's time constrained, given that we're going through 3 sports on this stuff, we're going to go over mainly just the West. So first round matchups: Lincolnton and West Wilkes, Shelby, West Lincoln, East Davidson, Madison, Thomasville, and Pine Lake Prep. Drawn at Patton, big rivalry game there for a first round matchup. And then as we keep going down, you got Hendersonville at Chase, Mount Airy at Polk County, East Surrey at Piedmont Community Charter. And then you got your top 8 seeds. You got North Stanley at 1, East Rutherford at 2, Surrey Central 3, Trinity at 4, 5 North Wilkes, 6 Walkertown. Looking for that 7 seed, West Davidson, and then at the 8 seed, we will have looks like Union Academy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there we go for the 3A classification. You know, a lot of area teams going in there, and you know, the number one thing I've seen just kind of pop off the board to me right now. You see, Mount Airy is a 24 seed at 2-17 making the postseason.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to get into it because of time constraints, but we could experiment around when we could see what it looked like if it was a 24 team playoff instead of a 48 team playoff. Would you like to see what that would look like?
Do you have that capability?
Yeah. So
All right.
now we have Mount Airy 2-17 team in the playoffs. I'm not sure. Let's see, 4-9 on the east side. It's not quite as bad, but if let's say 3A were 24 instead of 48. Let's experiment with what that would look like. So then your bottom seed in the West is 13-10 instead of what was it, 2-14? Is that what they were? 2-17.
2-17. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then in the East, let's see, you got Farmville Central at 11-6. See, these are much more respectable records.
Yeah.
If they were to go to a 24 team playoff, 8A does this, and because there's only like 30 something teams in 8A, but there's also only 30 something teams in 1A.
Yeah.
For baseball and football. Basketball, there is a good amount, though. It kind of works out better for basketball because almost every school has a gym. So it does work out for other sports. I just kind of would like to see an exception for the lower classifications. For those specific sports. You know?
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you, Ryan. I mean, like when we talked earlier in the show about the issues with the 1A and the 2A brackets, you know, maybe it would be worth the NCHS considering possibly shifting to a 24 team bracket rather than, you know, just sticking to that big bracket they have because the issues they already have right now is that they just don't have enough teams to fill out those brackets. So by doing this, it gives a better chance of, you know, actually having a bracket filled out. And it could also do what you proposed where, you know, you may not have a team traveling 6.5 hours to play a game.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed to fix that because they could still fall, you know, the way they fall. But it could definitely help, and it increases the odds that it helps when you do that. So, but honestly, 24 feels right for every classification when I look at it, to be honest. It like this is 3A, you know, and 13-10, that's a lot more respectable. You could argue 28 because I think if it goes to 28, the bracket looks a little weird if you go to 28, but I think the worst team is 500. Yeah, Chase here. If you go to 28, you know, there's an argument to be made there, but 2-17 Mount Airy, you know, that's a little.
Certainly a pretty interesting look there, Ryan. And obviously, this is a brand new feature I'd never seen before. So, once again, Ryan, you never cease to amaze me with your skills. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the 4A classification.
Okay, we'll start over here with the RPI table. Just looking at where everyone's standing right now. You got Bunn at the top, Burns third, West Stanley second. You got some any surprises here to you?
You know, seeing Uwari Charter there, that's a familiar team I've heard of the past few years. They at one point won back-to-back state championships a couple years ago. I'm familiar with them because I saw them not drawn out of the playoffs a couple times. Then you also got Lincoln Charter there at the 9 seed, and then Stuart Kramer. Burns and West Stanley being up there at the top is no surprise to me. Burns is usually a really good team. It goes deep in the playoffs every year. West Stanley played East Rutherford last year in the regional finals.
The only team that took a game off of them too, wasn't it?
Yes, the only team that beat East Rutherford last year.
Yep, and game 1, and then I think they went on and won
games 2 and 3 to claim the series.
Yeah. I think they won those pretty well too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know a good many of these teams were in 2A last year, for baseball. So that's interesting.
You know, Conover.
Yep. Newton Conover, RS.
Yep.
RS is having a pretty good season. So, and
Rutherford County in general is just a baseball county. You got every one of those teams down there in Rutherford County. It doesn't matter who it is; they're always going to be solid.
yeah, I was a little surprised to see how Chase wasn't doing too well this year. Oops. All right, we'll go on to the region standings. In the West, you got Burns on top. West Stanley in the East this year.
Wow, that's a surprise. That is a surprise right there.
Someone commented West Stanley was the team that they commented about because they were wondering why they were in the East this year. So we'll take a look at the map real quick on how that worked out.
That would probably
remove this for a second.
They would have to be right there on the line.
They are
right there on the line.
Yep, they are the westernmost East team. So something could shift where they could end up back into the West. It is possible. That would probably require this West Stokes to fall out, and that doesn't look like it'll happen. So West Stanley's probably staying in the East.
That's certainly an interesting. Yeah, I mean, it looks like West Stanley is basically the line right there.
Yep, they are. Well, really, it's between West Stanley and West Stokes here. It's just they're completely opposite sides of the state, but that line is right between those two teams. Wow. And they are pretty much like straight on each other's longitude there.
Yeah,
or latitudes or no longitude.
Very interesting there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the full playoff picture and see what we're going to have first round playoff. Just what it's projecting here in the first round. First round, you got Maiden at Tuscola, East Henderson at Mount Pleasant, Ashe County at East Gaston, West Iredell at Forbush, Bandy's at High Brighton, North Surrey at East Burke, Central Academy at RS Central. And then your top 8 seeds. At the 1 seed, you got Burns at 2. Kind of pausing there a little bit.
Sorry.
2 South.
I'm trying to read the chat.
You're good. 2, we got South Rowan. 3, we got Pisgah. 4, Lincoln Charter. 5, Lake Norman. At 6, got Stuart Kramer. At 7, you've got Brevard. And then at 8, you have Newton Conover.
Yeah, so the reason the bracket is like this, where the ones down here, is I tried to make it to where the home team's always on the bottom, and no matter how far you kept going, it would always be accurate. Like, if Maiden beat Tuscola and they played Brevard, and then Brevard won, it would be the winner of this game, and this team would be home. I tried to make it to where if you had to do some thinking gymnastics, with where they're going to end up, it'll always be accurate. So that's why it seems kind of random, the order, but it's not.
All right, so now that we've taken a look at 4A, let's go ahead and move on up to 5A. All right, looking at the 5A RPI standings.
Got North Lincoln number 1 overall right now. That's interesting. And they've been there a while too, apparently, because they have.
Yeah, North Lincoln did make an appearance in the state championship game last year. Yeah. So they are very solid. I believe they won the state championship last year. Don't quote me on that, but I think they did.
I remember them making it. I can't remember if they won either. I can't remember. I'm not sure. But
that's like asking me that question's like asking me what I had for breakfast yesterday. I don't know.
Got Crest at number 4 here overall.
Yeah, then
Hunt number 2, South Point number 3.
Got East Lincoln at number 8.
Kind of surprised to see them that low. They're not that low, but
that is a tough conference that they're in. Got East Lincoln, North Lincoln, and all the Hickory-based teams in there. That's
big baseball
a tough conference.
Yeah, big on baseball, all of them. Yeah, let's see where they line up in the region here.
Got North Lincoln 1, South Point 2, Crest at 3, East Rowan at 4, West Rowan 5. Well, both Rowan County teams going 4 and 5. That looks like that might be a potential clash there in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. I think the 4 and 5 seeds will eventually play each other.
Yeah, eventually. I think. Yeah, I think so. We'll have to look at it. You would think I would have all the answers to these questions as much as I look at this stuff, but it just becomes so much cognitive overflow. I can't keep up with it all.
Well, in all fairness to you, Ryan, you've spent a lot of time on this, making it look absolutely amazing. So I don't blame you. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the playoff picture here. All right, so the first round matchups, you're going to have Forest View at North Gaston, Parkwood at Northwest Cabarrus, Inca at Carson, J.M. Robinson at Franklin, North Henderson at Hickory, Smoky Mountain at Irwin, Forest Hills at North Davidson, North Buncombe at Atkins, and then obviously your top 8 seeds got 1, North Lincoln over at 2, South Point, 3, you got Crest, 4, you got East Rowan, 5, West Rowan, 6, East Lincoln, 7, Oak Grove. And then at 8, we have
West
Henderson. Ryan, one thing I noticed about this bracket is there are a lot of teams in this bracket that are way below 500. And I was wondering, do you think you could put the 24-team view in here and see what that would look like hypothetically?
Yeah, sure. This would be an ultra competitive space classification if
it
they
was
were to go to 24.
Yeah.
A lot of really good teams in here.
Looks like the worst team would be 11 and 8, 3 games over 500.
Yeah, and you got to think some of these 11 and 8 teams have played juggernauts, man.
Yeah,
some of the best teams.
Yeah, some of these teams play some really good competition.
Yeah, for sure. I was surprised. Let me see. Is there anything else you want to look at here on the 24?
No, I just wanted to take a look at what the lowest seed would be record-wise if it went to a 24 classification.
I want to take a look at the map because I was surprised by something. Maybe I'm thinking wrong. No, this is pretty normal, isn't it? Yeah, that's a pretty good line right there, isn't it?
That looks like about where the old east-west line was.
Yeah, it's not far off. Where is Oak Grove at?
I think they're more closer to the Winston area.
Oh, here they are. Here they are. Yeah, okay. See, I was thinking they were much farther east. I was like, Oak Grove's in the west? But, I mean, they are the most eastern west team, so I guess that does make sense. It's just, I was thinking they were much more central, much more over here somewhere with all this group of teams somewhere. Yeah, no, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good line.
All right, well, let's go ahead and keep on chugging through. We're going to 6A classification for baseball. Let's hope we can get through everything tonight. I'm going to try to see if we can get through everything tonight in a timely manner. All right, so in 6A, the number 1 seed RPI ranking-wise is Alexander Central at 3, seeing Charlotte Catholic. Then you got Asheville at number 5, TC Roberson behind them at 6. Automatically, I'm looking at this 6A bracket. This is the most competitive bracket I see so far because I'm seeing juggernauts like Alexander Central, Asheville, TC Roberson, St. Stephen, South Caldwell. AC Reynolds is having a good year. Watauga has had a good year, just in a tough baseball conference. I mean, that is a solid baseball conference in that top 12.
Yeah, 5A and 6A. They just have some really good teams in there. I was curious. Would you want to see how this looked last year? Obviously, it was only 3 classifications, so we'd have to look at 3A.
Yeah,
but we could look and see what this looked like last year.
Okay, so for those of you who are wondering, obviously from last year to this year, we moved from 4 classifications to 8 classifications. So more than likely, any team that was in the classification of 6A this year was in the 3A classification last year. So, anyways, looking at some of the teams, TC Roberson there at that 6 seed and Asheville there at the 5 seed. I mean, that's just interesting to see the Asheville area teams kind of taking over that top 10. And you got AC Reynolds at 9. All right.
He wanted to make another guest appearance again. He was scratching at my door. I had to let him in. Asheville, where were they last year? Were they 3A? It's kind of hard to compare it, isn't it?
Asheville was 4A last year.
Or 4A, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking there was only 3. There was 4, yeah. Let's see.
So
yeah, I was thinking
you see South Caldwell and TC Roberson in that one too.
I think this is the real Asheville. I think it's just showing the other one here. Yeah, I think this was their record. They were 16-6 and 17th overall. I mean, that tells you how competitive this class was last year.
Yeah.
Wow, you had Grimsley. Oh wow, yeah, all the 8A teams, yeah, they were up in.
Yeah, you had all these Charlotte area teams in there too, so it was definitely an ultra competitive classification.
Yeah, it's got to be like a huge change for someone like Asheville to go from playing those teams to where they are now. Okay, we'll move on to the region standings here. Sorry, Josh. Let me know if I'm taking my time too much on some of these. It's just I want to go in depth and see some of these teams.
No, it's.
I know we have a lot to go through. So.
I know we have a lot to go through, but let's take our time on this if we need to.
Okay.
I mean, if we don't get through all sports tonight, we could always do another live stream where we cover soccer later. I definitely want to try to get baseball and softball covered tonight, though.
Yeah. Wow, Asheville, the number 3 seed in the West here.
Yeah, then you got TC Roberson there at 4, St. Stephen's at 5, South Caldwell at 6, Watauga. You got 3 Northwestern 6A, 7A teams in that top 10, sitting at 5, 6, and 9. Actually, 4 because Alexander Central. I skipped over Alexander Central because it was cut off. Alexander Central's the 1 seed.
Yeah. Yep. You got your bottom teams here,
4-20, 3-15.
Yeah, but if it was 24, look where that line would be, 14-8.
Yeah,
that's why I think sometimes there's a good argument to make it like 28 or 32 teams because like look at 3A football last season. I think number 13 Kinston made it all the way to state. Obviously, we know what happened in that state championship game, but still, they made it all the way to state, and they were a 13 seed. Shelby was a 10 seed themselves, wasn't they?
Yeah, Shelby did not have a first-round bye.
So
and they were on the road for like 3 rounds. So, I mean, they were on the road the entire time. So both Kinston and Shelby were road warriors in that playoff.
So, and I think there's other examples. I can't remember the teams, but in basketball, I think another 12 or 13 seed team made it real far. Thomas Jefferson was 500, and they made it to state and won a basketball. So, I mean, there's arguments to be made here. Obviously, you don't want to make the cutoff line too small because if football was 24 teams total last year, Kinston wouldn't even been in, and they made it all the way to state. So there is an argument to be made for more teams. It's just 48 may be a little much with 3 and 15 teams getting in.
Well, I'll do one better. 6A basketball, boys basketball. Kings Mountain was a low seed, didn't have a first-round bye. Road Warriors, the entire postseason, made the state championship. Arguably a couple shots
away
from the state championship.
Yeah, they were the other team I was thinking of. Yeah. Yep. Let's see where do you remember? I think they were like 12 or 13 too, wasn't they?
Yeah, they were a low seed. They were right.
Maybe 14.
If it went with that 24 seed, it'd been right there at the cutoff.
You're gonna hate me for doing this. I'm gonna check it real quick
just to make sure.
Yeah. They're 6A, right?
Yeah, so there's 12 seed.
Yeah.
According to that.
Oh yeah, 12 seed. We can pull up their schedule from last year too here. Yeah, what a run too. Yeah, there were actually quite a few that teams make it to state with 8 seed or 8 within 8 to 13 seed between football and basketball. So
yeah,
there is a good argument to be made there for sure.
I think it just kind of brings up the question as to know like where would be an appropriate cutoff, you know?
Right.
Because obviously you don't want teams making the playoffs that's got like 2 or 3 wins. But if you have a team that may be like a game under 500, you obviously want to give them a chance.
Yeah,
because like Kings Mountain is the perfect example of that in basketball.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to go over? Have we went over the 6A? Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we have went over the 6A.
Yeah. Have you? We haven't went over all the matchups.
We haven't went over the matchups yet. First round, you got Piedmont at Southeast Guilford, Philip D. Berry Academy of Technology at Kings Mountain. My apologies there. I had some tongue twisters there. Freedom at Sun Valley, Glenn at. I'm gonna need you to scroll down there a little bit for me.
Oh, sorry, I was reading chat. Someone said my name. Quentin. Hey, Quentin.
Glenn at Central Cabarrus, North Iredale at Ragsdale, Ashbrook at Northern Guilford, Dudley at Watauga, Scotland at. Let me just scroll down just a tiny bit more there. Ashboro, there we go for the first round. Then you got 1 through 10. You got Alexander Central at 1. At 2, you got Charlotte Catholic. 3, you got Asheville. 4, you got TC Roberson. 5, St. Stephen's. 6, South Caldwell. 7, AC Reynolds. And then at the 8 spot, we have Mount Tabor.
Yeah, we got a question on thoughts on Bandy's baseball this year. Have you followed any of their games this year?
I have not followed Bandy's baseball mostly because I've been focused on school.
Yeah.
I believe that they are in that they're in that Hickory conference. I think it's a 4A, 5A conference. So they're either 4A or 5A.
Yeah, we'll look back at them. You covered them some during the football season, didn't you?
Yeah, we covered them a little bit during football season and a little bit during basketball season.
You're frozen. Your camera's frozen for me.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was because I was clicked off. I was looking at Max Preps.
Yeah. So Bandy's, they have a matchup with High Brighton if the season were to end today. I think they have a few games left, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like 2 games left.
Yeah.
So it looks like 1 tomorrow night and then 1 is at what, Friday, I believe, or Thursday? Thursday.
Yep, 1 tomorrow and 1, what is it, Thursday or Friday? Yep, Thursday. Yeah, they would be playing High Brighton, and the winner of that game would play Lake Norman Charter, who's pretty good this year. They've had a pretty impressive schedule.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to the 6A real quick. Somebody asked about Kings Mountain Baseball. Let's take a look at the remaining games.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, Ryan, this is looking at this, the numbers and everything, it makes a sports nerd like me just geek out.
Yeah, I even I want to refine this, the graphs, the RPI graphs. I have a way. There's a way where we can look at all teams and like where they're going to stack up and everything. It just doesn't work out well right now the way I have it laid out.
Yeah,
I want to work and spend some time on this to where you can actually see each team moving and everything. There's still a lot of refinement I want to do with this, but
it would be interesting if you had like a time lapse of that, like how they have like a time lapse of how, the seeds shift over time, like, week by week.
Yeah. Right now I just started collecting data and logs on this 4/21, so almost a week ago.
Yeah.
So there's not enough data for 1 and 2. I don't have it laid out properly. I don't have the set points right. I have a lot of refining to do with it. I hope I can find a way to make it look readable,
Yeah. All right. So somebody asked about Kings Mountain's remaining schedule. So apparently they do have some games left to play. So let's take a look.
Well, they got Ashbrook and South Point.
Ashbrook and South Point.
Tell you, if they could beat South Point, that'd be their RPI would shoot up.
Yeah, and that could potentially put them in a position to maybe have a home game in that first round.
Yeah.
If they hypothetically win out, it could put them in a position to have a home game.
Well, right now they have a home game in the first round. Yeah,
well,
now they do.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah. Well, that would just help their case of keeping a home game.
Now, if they lose, yeah, they probably won't. Actually, yeah, if they lose, it'll be really close. If they win, if they split the last two games, it will be really close. They won't lose a whole lot because South Point's really good. But if they were to beat them, I'm curious how much I think they might shoot up here. They would shoot up a good bit. Probably, there's a pretty big gap between them and Ragsdale. But
they could potentially,
if they won out, there's a shot that they could shoot up to a first round bye, but it's not likely. Mm-hmm. But they would definitely be given a top 10 seed a run for its money.
South Point's the 2 seed, am I right?
Yeah. Wait.
They're ranked at top 10 in one of the brackets. That might be one of the lower.
Yeah, South Point's 5A, right?
Yeah.
South Point's 5A, right? I get them and St. Stephen's confused sometimes. I don't know why. I do. I guess it's the S on their logo.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on and head up to 7A. Take one last look at that. And then we'll move on to softball. All right. So looking here at 7A.
Yeah, Reagan here is the only reason North Stanley isn't the number 1 seed overall in 3A. North Stanley and Reagan played each other a week ago or something, a few days ago. And North Stanley was number 1 overall until North Stanley played a really good game with a 7A Reagan, and they're always really good in baseball. They're always a big baseball school. And North Stanley's really good. I kind of give North Stanley a hard time a lot when I'm talking to my friends because the conference they put them in, it's kind of they're in a 1A, 2A, 3A, and there's only one other 3A team in it, and they're not known for being good usually.
Yeah,
and I give North Stanley a hard time because the conference they're in, but this year in baseball they are the real deal. North Stanley's really good. It wouldn't surprise me at all if North Stanley wins state in 3A baseball. I gave them a hard time during football, but they deserve their flowers for 3A or for baseball. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to see here. Let's take a look at region standings for both the West and the East. Main one I'm looking for here in this 7A bracket is since there's not a lot of 7A teams in the western part of the state, the one team I'm trying to see is if McDowell makes the playoffs and what seed they would have.
Someone was just asked if South Point wins out, if they can jump the team ahead of them. I don't know why it keeps loading out here. I'm running this off of a server off my laptop behind me just because it's not ready to host yet. So it's all local right now. So might be a little connection issues, little weird stuff like that here and there. Let's see. Can they pass North Lincoln? That's a pretty
that looks like a pretty comfortable lead.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. South Point still has games left. I don't know if North Lincoln does.
North Lincoln's got 2, and
but they're not highly ranked teams, so their RPI is not going to go up a whole lot.
Let's take a look at South Point.
Yeah, they have Kings Mountain and North Gaston, so 2 decent teams. Kings Mountain will likely be 10-10 when they play them. So it's not likely unless North Lincoln loses a game here. If North Lincoln loses a game, there's a chance. If they lose both, they'll pass them. But it doesn't look very likely. There's a chance, but it's not a very big chance. 0.02 lead is usually a lot bigger than it looks. Usually if a team wins and another team loses, from what I've seen, the average jump is about 0.18. So even if they win both and North Lincoln loses one, it's not guaranteed that they'll go up that much, which 0.018 is about the lead here, actually. So it could happen if North Lincoln drops a game to one of those lower ranked teams, but it isn't likely.
Yep. Let's go ahead and head back to 7A and take a look at that classification. Evan, you're welcome for us taking a look at that. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks still in play because there's still some games to be played, and some teams are doing their conference tournament this week as well. So, like we said before, these brackets that you were seeing tonight, these are not final brackets. We still got a week to play in the season, so these brackets could hypothetically change dramatically over the course of the week, given that there's still a handful of games to be played. And we will have the final brackets released next week, and next week is when the playoffs start. All right, so we're going to take a look at the Western region. What I'm looking for, Ryan, is if we can find McDowell in the playoff picture.
All right, let's look and see here.
All right,
24 seed.
McDowell is right there on the cutoff as the 24 seed. They do play the conference tournament this week. If I'm not mistaken, McDowell has no more games outside of the conference tournament this week. So they'll be playing the conference tournament for that playoff spot.
Yeah. Some of these teams, I think it's the conference. They set up their schedule for that conference tournament because I'm pretty sure the max they're allowed is 24.
Mm-hmm.
24 games, so they'll only play in 19. That's why they do it. And some teams in 1A, I'm not sure if they have conference tournaments too, and where they've only played 9 games, where everyone else has played 20. But I'm like, I don't know, But I wish they would make that more consistent for all teams if they're going to do a conference tournament, much more like basketball does. Basketball is much more consistent with that.
Yeah,
but yeah, McDowell has a chance to hold on to their playoff spot or lose it. It looks like. Would you like to look and see how much they're hanging on to?
Yeah, we could take a look and see what the difference is between that cutoff.
It's hard to look at on here, isn't it? We'll have to go to region standings for here. Wow, them and Page are neck and neck.
And if McDowell was to win a game in this conference tournament, that'd be big for them to secure that playoff spot.
All right, here's McDowell. I'm pretty sure Overhills is in the East, right? I'm pretty sure I've seen them on the bracket in the East here. So
I think who they probably may be concerned about would be maybe North Mech. I don't know if Ashley is considered in the West or not.
Yeah, these are East teams. Ashley's East, the number 23 seed. See, Lumberton is 24th over there. Porter Ridge isn't ranked. I think they would be an East team too, though. It might be North Mecklenburg, depending on where that line is.
Yeah, I would say it would have to be them in North Mech.
They have a pretty good lead right there. They would have to drop below 48. That's where you don't want them to get.
Play? Let's take a look at North Mech and see if they got any games, because that could be a big deciding factor. They got one game against West Charlotte.
Yeah, and then that would give them 21 games. Now I don't know if they have any kind of conference tournament or anything.
Yeah,
they could. They have 3 games they could theoretically play still, but they won't cover this kind of ground. They won't cover that kind of ground. McDowell would have to fall 4 spots from here, and they have a pretty sizable advantage. Yeah, they won't fall out. I mean, I guess I won't say they can't, but it's unlikely.
Yeah.
They seem pretty comfortable in that 24 spot. As comfortable as I've seen it, pretty much.
All right, so let's go ahead and move it to softball and take a look at the softball brackets. Now we've taken a look at McDowell, see where they are on the cutoff.
You want to go 3A here?
Yeah, we're going to go 3 through 7A again.
Oh, I forgot to mention in baseball. Did you notice right now if the playoffs started today, who East Rutherford's matchup would be in round 2? It'd be the winner of Shelby and I forget who they're playing, but Shelby, of course, again following them in the brackets. You know, they're kind of having a okay season. I think they're around 500 or 8-10 or something, but it just seems to always happen that way when I watch these brackets. Shelby's always following East, no matter.
Oh, did we lose you there, Ryan? I think we may have lost Ryan there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try to see if I can get him back in here. He might have just lagged out. All he has to do is just rejoin through the link. He'll be fine. Oh, cat turned his. Okay, so apparently the cat was the culprit for this one, ladies and gentlemen. He had his computer turned off by his cat, but he'll be back on here in a minute. We'll just take a quick break here as we start talking about things. So a bit of a recap of what we just did. We just went through the baseball projections for each bracket from 3A through 7A. And we were just making sure everything was working properly for those specific brackets, seeing where every team standed. That's in our coverage area. We're going to try to cover all 3 through 7A softball as well before the stream ends tonight. So we're going to try to see if we can get Ryan back in here any moment, ladies and gentlemen. So I appreciate you for being patient with us. This is not something that typically happens time to time, but I just have to be used to being prepared for when it happens. See here. Also, when we were talking about the brackets earlier, one thing that we did notice with the brackets is that 1A and 2A particularly would have teams in the brackets that would have played only a handful of games. When me and Ryan discussed that stuff, we were able to figure out that those teams, by talking to other people, may have folded, or there's just other reasons why they're not having those games reported, like they don't report into max preps and other issues. And those questions usually don't get resolved until the brackets are officially released. So some of our brackets don't have those teams on them, and there's a possibility they could be on them, but more than likely the teams that we disincluded will probably not be in those brackets at all. Welcome back, Ryan. You're muted there, Ryan. Oh.
Hello?
All right, there we go. Yep, you're back.
Oh man, every time I join in here, it's like, yep, your mic's good to go. And then I jump in and it's like, nope, it's not.
Lordy. Okay.
Yeah, the cat, he always wants to be the center of attention for some reason. I don't know.
Okay, so we were starting off with the 3A classification for softball. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And it looks like you're already on the standings for everything, and automatically seeing at the number 1 seed, West Lincoln, they're at the number 1 seed. And that is going to be a team that's going to be in the West. And I also see Drawn there at a 5th overall seed as well, just behind West Wilkes.
Yep. Let's see where they all are going to end up in the region standings here. It looks like they have a very sizable lead in the West here, West Lincoln. So looks like they'll be your number 1 seed.
Yeah, it looks like that one might be a lock.
1 second here. Everything's still all out of whack. Yep, wrong thing. Yep. Okay. Well. Oh well. I had the old East-West line pulled up, and I was going to show it, and I completely forgot about it. But oh well. You got East Rutherford down here at the number 9 seed right there. They had a pretty good softball team last year, didn't they? I think I can't remember. It seems like they lost early in the playoffs, but had a really good regular season. I can't remember. Oh, sorry, I muted you somehow. Everything's falling apart here. Yeah, I don't know how I did that.
Oh, come on now, Ryan. You got this. Don't worry about it. I make rookie mistakes all the time.
Yeah, well, the kitty cat decided he would jump in here and mess it all up. I had to lay him outside. He'll probably be scratching at my door again. Let me in.
I do think it's interesting, though. Look at this, though. At that 14 seed, a 6 and 12 team. Then at the 15 seed, an 11 and 10 squad.
Yep. I've seen this too. There's some interesting ones like this in soccer as well.
And then look at Chase's softball team right there, 10 and 12 at a 19 seed behind a bunch of teams with single-digit wins.
Yep. Well, you have to look at their schedules. Like North Stanley, surprisingly, I guess they've had a tough schedule here. Let's see. They've played 7 and 10, a winning record, running record. Good teams, good team, and they won.
Pretty much good teams across the board.
Yeah, good team. Yeah, everyone's above 500. Wow. Yeah, North Randleman. Yeah, except with the exception of these 3 games and their first one, they've played all really good teams. So, and then I guess if you want to look at like someone like Chase here, let's see who all they've played. 3 and 19. East Rutherford's over 500. West Caldwell's near 500, but under. Drone, they're really good. RS and Drone, 2 really good teams in that conference. High Brighton, pretty good too. I mean, their schedule is not terrible. I mean, they haven't played quite the schedule North Stanley has, but they've played a lot of games too. I guess they're going to play their full.
They still got 2 games to play this week too. Yeah. There's a possibility that Chase could probably jump up in the standings if they finish strong.
Yeah, for sure. With
that West Caldwell could definitely help with the RPI.
Yeah, Patton won't help them out a ton, but yeah, that there's some cases where it's like, man, that makes the RPI look bad, and the records are so off like that. There's some situations like that in soccer too. I've noticed, girls soccer. We'll see that hopefully here soon too.
Yeah, well, seeing that West Caldwell being that 16 seed and Chase being that 19 seed, Chase was to beat West Caldwell. That could probably jump them over maybe Mountain Heritage or Surrey Central, but I'm not going to bank on that given that there's such a sustainable lead there for Surrey Central. They might have a shot at jumping Mountain Heritage.
Yeah, this is the difference between a home playoff game and not. It would be a shame if like a 500 Chase doesn't get a home playoff game, and then a 6 and 13 or 14 North Stanley does.
Yeah. Well, looking at Patton at that 24 seed, what is the cutoff looking like for the West for that final spot in the playoffs? Like, what's the separation in the RPI?
Well, let's see here. Patton, they are at the 46th spot, so you don't want them to fall below 48. That's the threshold right here.
Yeah, so I think Louisburg, I think that's out east. North Carolina, Durham, that's out east. I'm not sure where Spring Creek is, but I'm assuming that'd have to be out east. So I would assume it'd have to be Mount Airy is the one that you'd look at to be that potential one to snag that 24 seed from Patton.
Right, yeah. Yep, it looks like it'd be one of these two, and they're very close. 0.02, it's a pretty good lead. I mean, it's not when you're at the bottom of the standings, it's definitely not guaranteed. 0.02, they could lose and they could win, and like 2 games, and they jump ahead of them. So they're not guaranteed to be in. And Mount Airy's, they have a chance to get back into it. I don't know if they have any conference games.
It doesn't look like they have any games, but they could have a conference tournament.
Yep. I'm not sure. So it's hard to say.
Max preps and see.
Did we look at Patton and see if they had any games left?
Patton had I would say 2 games left because that conference schedule for Chase showed 2 games.
Yeah. Yep. So you got East Burke and Chase.
Yeah, so Mount Airy's season has come to a close. They lost tonight to East Surrey 17-1. So their season's officially over.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like they won't get in. I'm trying to think if Patton lost out, could they get in? Maybe. Unlikely though. It's unlikely, but Patton could still drop out.
Well, and there's also you got to worry about Hendersonville too. You know, Hendersonville 4-14. They probably got a couple games to play as well.
That's true. Yep, against Polk.
Yeah, back to back with Polk.
See, you think 2-16? Well, that's not going to help them much, but that's 2 likely wins on the record, and that'll help them a good bit too. There, the fact that those will likely be wins. Hendersonville might get in here. That's very possible. I could see them jumping 0.03 to 0.04.
Yeah.
I could see them jumping that much. And they have they're down 0.03 or 0.027, somewhere around that range. So
yeah.
If Hendersonville wins those 2 games, I could see them getting in over Patton.
Yeah, Hendersonville will play tomorrow versus Polk County, and then Wednesday at Polk County to finish off their season. I'm looking at Hendersonville softball's page right now, and the scores I'm seeing from some of these games.
Yeah,
I think it's football.
Yeah, no, me and my nephew, we've been sharing this one team in softball. I can't remember what state it is, but they just keep putting up football scores in every game they have. It's like 45-38 every game. It's nuts. I wish I could remember and pull that up to show y'all, but it is nuts.
Yeah, you think we're watching football out there with some of them scores.
Yeah. Softball can get crazy.
Yeah, I mean
28-24.
A 21-20 game, 29-17.
Well, Hendersonville won this one by 3 touchdowns. Asheville couldn't convert their extra point, so
a goal line stop there that won them the game.
Yeah. Asheville struggles with extra points. It looks like they played them again, and once again Hendersonville put up 3 touchdowns, and Asheville couldn't get their extra points.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at the full playoff picture, and then we'll go over the first round matchups, and then we'll move on to 4A. All right, so for the first round matchups, you got Shelby at Owen, Mountain Heritage at Madison, Chase at North Stanley, Piedmont Community Charter at Bessemer City.
Every time you go to read these, I read something in the chat, and I'm like, and I pause for a second.
Then you got North Wilkes at East Surrey, Wheatmore at East Davidson, Patton at East Rutherford, Surrey Central at West Caldwell. Your 1 seed, obviously, you got West Lincoln at the 2 seed. We got McMichael at 3, West Wilkes.
Who McMichael was in the East in baseball, too. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting going through this and seeing how it flip-flops from, side to side.
Yeah.
Now at the 4 seed, we got drawn 5, West Davidson, 6, Pine Lake Prep, 7 seed, Union Academy, and at number 8, you have Walkertown.
Walkertown, yeah. Union Academy, I think they're in the same they're one of the teams that's in the same conference as North Stanley, I believe. I believe they're the only other 3A team in that conference.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Before we move on to 4A softball, let's go back to 7A baseball right now. Somebody's asking a question about Lumberton.
Yep. We was looking at that, and Lumberton is right there at the line. It was baseball, right? We might have, yeah. We were looking at that.
Yeah, I think it was right. It was right there at the cutoff.
Yeah, because we were looking at McDowell and teams that could possibly pass them. Do you know if Lumberton where that would be? Are they for sure a West team?
I have no clue, to be honest with you. I don't know if they're East or West.
Oh, well, right now I think we have them in the playoffs. They're right there at the cutoff line. Yeah, by a little bit of a margin here. Let's look at the map. Let's do clean view so we can see these logos.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Lumberton is out east.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, they're in the east for sure, right here. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, we can hide these again. So yeah, they're pretty comfortably in the east, but they are right at the cutoff, aren't they?
Yeah.
So let's see if they have any games left. They have one game left against North Brunswick. That'd be a tough game for them. If they could win that, they'll for sure be in. I would say because they already have a pretty comfortable lead. Well, this is 0.4199, so it's basically 0.42. So it's not as big as it looks. If they were to lose, let's see if Porter Ridge has any games left. Wow,
it does not look, but there's a possibility they may have a conference tournament too. So let's check scripts just make sure.
Porter Ridge has played 24 games. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I can also go to Max Preps from here if I need to. If you want to look at a possible conference tournament, does Max Preps, are they showing that by now or?
Some teams that are playing conference tournaments, they've got the results in for some of the games. So yeah.
Okay, let's see. North Mecklenburg has a chance to catch up with them. We was looking at them earlier.
I think North Mech is more west though.
It's really close to the line, isn't it?
I mean, it's right there on the line, but
it's really close. They play West Charlotte, so they'll probably win another game. I think it's going to come down to Lumberton has to win. I think if they win their final game, they're in. I think if they win, they're in. That's what it looks like to me.
All right.
Let's see where that line is real quick. Because if I remember right, well, most of I haven't looked at 7A map much. Oh, yeah, no, they're definitely in the west on this one. Man, look at all these teams grouped up here. You got one group here, and one group here, and one group here, and then that's it. Yeah, the line right here is a lot more east. Like if 3A is close, like it pretty much goes straight through Mecklenburg, or it's 4A. 4A pretty much goes straight through Charlotte area. So yeah, it's hard to say, but yeah, they're comfortably west.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at 4A softball, and then we're gonna keep moving forward, keep chugging through, and we're going to try to see if we can get through all the softball brackets tonight. We won't go over the soccer playoffs, but we'll try to see if we could do something maybe later this week to go over some more stuff soccer-wise. When there's still, conference tournaments and stuff going on too. So, like we said, everybody that's watching this, playoff brackets are not finalized. There's still a lot of games to be played this week. And we won't have any idea as to how everything's going to start shaping up until about Friday night once the games conclude.
Yeah, and then there's still, especially in the lower classifications, there's still a lot of teams that may be eligible, might not be eligible, might opt out, might not opt out. So
yeah, so we're going to try to see if we can do it right now. So I might try to put Ryan on the spot right now, and I'm going to ask him what you think about possibly doing another live stream on Friday evening. Probably about 9 p.m. once games start concluding, so that way we can start taking a look at the finalized brackets.
I think that would be fun. I think, I should be able to do that. That sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
All right, so looking at the 4A classification, number one team I see standing out right now, Bunker Hill at number 3 at 18-1. Then also seeing a familiar team that we've heard name-wise, West Stanley, sitting there at number 7 at 20-4.
Yep.
Got RS 12.
Yep.
Ford at 15.
I've written down here. It's crazy. They're 13-8, and they're the 20th overall, but I'm sure they're much higher in the region standings. Although that was a lot of West teams there. Yeah, they're not much higher, actually. Yeah, that was a lot of West teams at the top.
Notice the difference between the East and West. You see a lot of teams all the way through the 16 seed in double digits, and then you start seeing, really start dipping down and in wins in the East by the time you get down in that teens area. But you see a lot of teams in that Western region, having double digit wins all the way well into the teens, probably up to 16 seed it looks like.
Yeah, look at this, like a number 10 seed with a 16-2 record. That is something. And then the number 10 in the East is 7-10.
Yeah.
That is something there. Yeah, there's a big discrepancy between the East and West and 4A, it looks like.
All right, so calling out the top 8 seeds here in the West, you got Central Davidson, Bunker Hill, West Stokes, West Stanley, Pisgah, East Gaston, South Rowan, and RS Central. We'll go ahead and take a look at the playoff picture. We'll talk about the first round matchups here from the predictions. West Iredale at Lake Norman Charter, Lincoln Charter at Tuscola, Bandy's at High Brighton. What was that? Would that be baseball and softball possibly playing at High Brighton in that first round?
I think possibly, right, because if they win, High Brighton has a bye, right, or something like that. Yeah, but I think there's a chance that they play High Brighton in both baseball and softball here.
Yeah, seeing that that's something that already stood off the board to me. And then you got Ashe County at Ford, North Surrey at Mount Pleasant, Brevard at Burns, East Burke at Forbush, Central Academy at Maiden. And then we talked about the top 8 seeds through the RPI rankings. So, honestly, as we start moving up these brackets, it gets apparent that once you get to the 4A, it's when you start reaching the brackets that have competition pretty much mostly through them. But you really don't see that become evident until probably about 5A.
Yeah, 4A sometimes, 5A, yeah. I mean, it does get better as you go on, that's for sure. But it's, I just think all of them are a little saturated. I mean, even at the bottom of this, when you got 3 and 14 East Burke, which I think East Burke's usually pretty good in softball, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is a down year for them, but 3 and 14 probably shouldn't be in any of them.
All right, moving on up to 5A.
Let's look at the RPI standings here. A lot of new teams, it looks like, outside of North Lincoln.
They're at the number 1 seed at 15-3.
Yeah. Man, it would be something if Southeast Alamance goes undefeated and they still aren't on top of the RPI standings here.
Look at the difference in the RPI, too, between the two. A pretty significant difference.
Hinkle still has 2 games left as well. I mean, their schedule looks pretty impressive, but, it's not – we've seen probably better ones, actually, I can't remember the teams, but I mean, they've had an impressive schedule, but wow. Yeah, there isn't a huge gap there. That's if both teams went out. I mean, one's West, one's East, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Southeast Alamance has a huge lead in that Eastern spot for that number 1 seed. Yeah. I think I saw that between Southern Nash is also an Eastern team, and that's probably going to be the number 2 team in the East. Look at the difference between that, about a 0.04 and the difference in RPI. Now, I don't know how many games Southern Nash has left to play, but that's a pretty significant gap to try to cover.
Yeah. So, like, for an East and a West team here, I guess this could determine, like, who bats in the bottom of the softball play 7 innings too? Do they do 7?
Yeah.
So this could determine who bats in the bottom of a state championship game, basically, like if these two were to meet, I would assume.
Other notable teams I see, number 5 overall, you got North Lincoln. Then you got Crest at 7. Number 9, you got North Buncombe. Then you also have Franklin there at the 13 seed.
Yep. You want to check out the region standings here?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll call out the top 8 seeds in the West, so that way we can get through the playoff matchups with a little bit more ease rather than me having to go through them and just call them out again. So 1 seed for the West, you got Inca at 2, you got North Davidson, 3 North Lincoln, 4 Crest, 5 North Buncombe, 6 Franklin, West Henderson at 7, and at 8 you have East Lincoln.
Yeah, that West Henderson logo keeps throwing me off. Does it keep throwing you off too?
A little bit. I ain't gonna lie.
I think it's a newer logo for the. I'm not sure.
Well, I ain't gonna lie too. That gradient, I can't even
off.
see the logo.
Yeah, you can see it if you were looking at it on my screen. It's a bird inside the W.
Oh, okay. On my screen, it looks like it's just like an outline of something, and I can't really tell what it is.
Yeah. It keeps throwing me off. I'm not used. That's not their normal logo. I don't think. I think it's new. I'm not sure. But yeah, it keeps throwing me off too. Every time I've looked at it,
it has to be a new logo because I remember their logo was like a falcon or something like that.
Yeah. This has a falcon inside the red W. It's more like what's the other team? West Lincoln? No, not West Lincoln. I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, it keeps throwing me off as well.
All right, taking a look at the playoff picture for the 5A brackets. First round matchups for right now, you got Smoky Mountain at East Rowan, Carson at South Point, Concord at West Rowan, High Point Central at Northwest Cabarrus, Hickory at Irwin, North Henderson at Parkwood, J.M. Robinson at Oak Grove, and then North Gaston at Adkins.
Parkwood, where is that at? I would like to see. Oh, they're down here. Okay. I can't think of what county that is, but yeah, I've never heard of them before. It's new school to me. This is a pretty line too. It works out really well here at this line right here. Okay, we'll move on to 6A now.
All righty.
You want to start from the playoff picture on this one?
We could, or if you want to go, let's go region standings. I'll go top 8 teams, and then we'll go over. For your top 8 teams, you got Kings Mountain at 1, South Caldwell at 2, Piedmont at 3, Ragsdale at 4, Alexander Central at 5, 6 Central Cabarrus, 7 Glen, and 8 Northern Guilford. Getting confused there a little bit. Also seeing kind of Watauga and AC Reynolds there at 10 and 11 too. Some other familiar faces. All right, going to our first round matchups. First round matchups, you got Ashboro at Watauga, Philip D. Berry Academy of Technology at Freedom.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're good. St. Stephen's at Eastern Guilford, Dudley at AC Reynolds, Ashbrook at North Iredale, Mount Tabor at TC Roberson, Western Guilford at Charlotte Catholic, Sun Valley at Northeast Guilford. I'm going to be honest with you here, Ryan. This 6A bracket, there's a lot of teams that are well below 500.
Yep. Yeah, it works out like that sometimes, when you have 24 teams in each region, 48 total teams. That's just how it works out. I mean, it's always the bottom teams are going to be like, are they going to even travel to play? You're asking yourself, are they going to go play?
It's super interesting given the fact that, this is the 6A bracket. That's what makes it so weird to see in this.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you have top heavy, comp classes, and you'll have just the top 5 or 6 just beating up on everybody else, I mean, and the 6A here, you got 6 and 12 Southeast Guilford with a home playoff game, So it's just how it happens sometimes. You have top heavy classes that are like this.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, not to beat a dead horse, I know I've said this a lot, but 24, 28, especially once you get up to like 7A, 8A already is, and then the lower classifications, 1A, 2A, could really benefit from it. It's, 3A, all of them, honestly, I think are pretty well saturated. I'd like to see them next season make some adjustments on this.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we see some. I think we will, honestly. I'm not sure how often they can make adjustments. I know they can only do conference realignments, I think, every 4 years. Or at least that's what I've heard. I'm not sure if that's fact. I don't know for sure. So
yeah,
but that's what I've heard. So I don't know what kind of adjustments they can make, but I would like to see some adjustments.
Let's take a look at this. What if scenario if it was a 2014 playoff bracket?
Just like 8A here, which would for 6A, 7A, that would be ultra competitive, for these higher classifications. I mean, you still end up with a 12-10 team, or a 10-7, 7-12 AC Reynolds. But I mean, it's AC Reynolds,
Yeah.
They could probably upset some teams. So it's still much more competitive, at least.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Outside of AC Reynolds, I think they're the only team below 500, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they are. And so they've probably played a really difficult schedule too. So they're probably pretty high up in the RPI.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our last softball bracket, the 7A, and we'll see where the McDowell Titans stand in this.
I'm going to go back here to let's just go to region standings. Let's see where McDowell stands. Wow, Weddington.
18-0, South Iredale at 2 at 17-6. I mean, this bracket right here is probably being a gauntlet. There's McDowell sitting there at the 9 seed, and they could hypothetically jump into a first round bye, depending on how they do in the softball tournament, with the conference tournament.
Yep, it looks like they're definitely going to have a home playoff game, so that's good. But if they could end up with a bye, that would be good for them.
All right.
Grimsley, wow. Well, the 500 record at the 22. Anytime I see Grimsley like that low, it doesn't matter what.
Every time you hear Grimsley High School, you automatically assume like they're going to be like top 10 and something.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom of this bracket doesn't even look too bad. You got 8-12 West Cabarrus and 7-14 Ballantyne Ridge, which I've never heard of them either. They have a cool logo. I like their colors and logo. Let's see where they're at. Well, that's a Charlotte team, isn't it? Yeah. That looks like, definitely Charlotte team. A lot of Charlotte teams. Not surprised in 7A, but yeah, a lot of teams like right around the border of Mecklenburg County.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, I think we've pretty much covered all we're going to do tonight for softball and baseball. I wish we could get into soccer, but I do have a busy day tomorrow that I have to get up for. I do have to give a final presentation for a class tomorrow, and that is going to be at 9 a.m. sharp. So I do need to get some rest for that. But we do have the brackets that we've reviewed tonight that are still in the current shape that they're in, posted on the page for y'all to go take a look at. We've got baseball, softball, and soccer posted. I feel like we've covered all the main points, talking about most of the talking points, and then talking about, the East-West line and all that other stuff to kind of just hammer in, some of the changes that have been through the system this year, given that, it's our first year in an 8 classification system. And that's pretty much all I have. I mean, is there anything you want to add, Ryan?
No, I think we've covered about everything. Maybe we should post a poll or something on the Facebook, or maybe ask which region standing they would prefer to see. I mean, we could post the maps with the region standing too, but there's already a lot there. There's already 16 graphics for each classification.
I think it'd be really interesting to do a couple, like for example, like we did with the 6A softball and maybe like another classification for baseball or something like that, where we showed the comparison between, a 48 team bracket to a 24 team bracket. If we posted that, see what people think about the difference in that.
Yeah.
Instead of, having that first round bye, you pretty much eliminate that first round bye.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully one day maybe we'll have the website up. Me and you have been kind of working on the side,
Yeah.
where people can kind of view this stuff themselves. But for now, yeah, I think that's a good idea to show those.
All right, everybody. Well, we appreciate y'all for tuning in to Big Red Live tonight as we discussed some of the baseball and softball playoff brackets tonight. We tried to get everything covered tonight, but we couldn't, unfortunately, get everything. But we do have all the material that was covered tonight, including the stuff that we were going to cover, posted to the page on separate posts. You got baseball, softball, and soccer brackets. We will be doing a show this Friday night following the conclusion of all the games that are going to be played, including conference tournaments. And we're going to try to give you the final piece together, the final pieces of the puzzle of what we believe the playoff bracket is going to look like as we move forward. And hopefully everything goes well for that. And we don't have any mishaps where the computer gets mistakenly turned off.
Hey, this cat's innocent. Okay, this cat didn't do it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Ryan, as always, for helping us out tonight, and everybody that tuned in. We appreciate you, and we will catch y'all next time.